Hi guys, today we are talking about assessing visual motor integration in children. Now make sure you stick around to the end because I tell you which specific assessment of visual motor integration I like to use in handwriting assessments. I'm Michelle Newby and I'm from Stepping Up. Now, as an early career OT, you are going to see so many children coming to you with challenges in visual motor integration. And so you're going to want to make sure that you're assessing it in the right way, because that assessment will then guide your treatment. So let's first of all start off with what visual motor integration is. So it's the ability to accurately interpret the visual information from your environment and to process that information to then be able to produce an appropriate motor response for the demands of that specific activity. And so we do see lots of children who have interruptions within these particular processes. And you might see that as a kiddo who has really messy handwriting, or maybe they really struggle with any kind of fine motor dexterity tasks like using scissors or doing buttons or any of those kind of fine motor dexterity. Visual motor integration doesn't just relate to fine motor skills. It also relates to all types of body responses, motor responses. So it can affect children's ball skills, their ability to sort of catch a ball and kick a ball, but oftentimes we will see children, first of all, for interruptions with visual motor integration as it relates to their hands, and usually it's handwriting. Typically that's what we see. So there are two really terrific assessments that I have in my assessment toolkit, and I use them at different times. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. The first assessment that I use, and you'll all be very familiar with it, is the very awesome Beery VMI. Now, this is a tried and true visual motor assessment. It is a standardized norm-referenced assessment for kids aged from 2 years onwards. So you can use it for adults up to 100 years. So it's a good, very simple visual motor integration test. And it gives you standardized scores for 3 sort of specific areas. So first of all, there is the visual perception form. So this is like a matching form. So it starts off you sort of looking at this one and which one is similar. And so it goes through that and increases in complexity. So it gives you like norm referenced results in visual perception. There's also a motor coordination form. Now this motor coordination form in the Beery VMI, it is a pencil and paper assessment. So you can see here, so they have to like draw a line between the dots, and it's about the accuracy of that line. That's how you score it. And so, it does require some element of visual perception. So I think it's a bit tricky to really pull out what is visual perception and what is motor, but it is a standardized norm-referenced assessment for scoring motor coordination. And then it also has the integration of both visual and motor components. So that's this form that they look here at this one, and then they've got to copy it exactly the same down the bottom, and it increases in complexity. So I really love this. It's really simple, it's very straightforward, easy to use, super easy to score most of the time. So it's great. But what it doesn't actually give you is like a manual dexterity kind of assessment. I don't think that the motor assessment in the VMI, this one here, because it's pencil and paper, it doesn't really give you an indication about manual dexterity. It just gives you an indication about their motor control with a pencil. And that's where the next assessment comes in. Now, the next assessment is this beautiful assessment called the RAVMA. The RAVMA stands for the Wide Range Assessment of Visual Motor Abilities. And it's very similar to the VMI. So it looks at, there's a drawing booklet. So it's like this. It starts off very simple. For the younger kids, they've got this fun clown and you've got to draw a line from the balloon to his hands. But then, and they've got a few sort of simple images like that. So the train track, you've got to finish the train track. But then it becomes more complex where you're copying the more complex shapes. So in that way, it is very similar to the VMI. It's also similar to the VMI with its visual spatial or visual perceptual component. And so with this, it's a matching component. So you have to, you know, look at this picture and then pick which one is most similar down the bottom, or which one fits best. And it starts off very simple and becomes more complex. But where the RAVMA differs from the VMI is that it actually also includes, and this is what I love about it, a pegboard. So we've got the pegs and the pegboard. So it actually has a standardized assessment of manual dexterity in it. So, so that's why I really, really like it. So the $1 million question is, when would you use the Beery VMI and when would you use the RAVMA? Because they're both standardized norm-referenced assessments of visual motor integration. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret about how I use these two different assessments. So the Beery VMI, I would use this if I was doing like a comprehensive assessment of a child's performance. I might use a series of different standardized assessments if that was appropriate. So I might be using the Beery VMI to give me an understanding of their visual motor integration as it relates to pencil and paper tasks. But I might also be doing something like the movement ABC. And the movement ABC has a series of manual dexterity assessments that are standardized for norm reference. So I'm getting some really valuable information about their pencil skills here, but then I'm getting some really valuable information about their manual dexterity from the movement ABC. And I can put all that information together when I'm doing my analysis of the assessment results, and that will help me understand. Because what you want to be doing is understanding, where is the disruption for this child? Is it that, you know, the motor performance is fine, but actually the disruption is in the perception of the visual information? Or it could be the other way around, like they're interpreting visual information appropriately, but they can't give an accurate, controlled motor response, and that's the breakdown. And it's important to know that, because that then guides your treatment, doesn't it? So that is when I would use the Beery VMI, is when I'm also doing another type of assessment that is looking very closely at manual dexterity with standardized norm referenced results. So when would I use the RAVMA? So sometimes kiddos come into the clinic for example, just a handwriting assessment. So if it was just a handwriting assessment, there are a series of assessments that I would do, but I wouldn't do something like the movement ABC if they were just coming in for handwriting. So that's when I would use the RAVMA, because the RAVMA is going to give me really good information about their, you know, their visual spatial skills, about their visual motor integration, but it's also giving me quite specific information about their manual dexterity. So those are my top tips for trying to decide which visual motor integration test is going to be the best for that specific kiddo who's sitting in front of you. Now, I hope that was helpful to you. Make sure that if you found this information useful, that you share it with your OT friends. And don't be afraid to click like and subscribe to us for more awesome information just like this. Thanks, bye-bye.